This video is called Kill Your Darlings, also known as Throwing Out the Baby. Don't let the name of this video freak you out. I am not about to suggest that anyone harm a child. I love children. I have 7 of my own. Kill your darlings in writing means to not be afraid to throw out your work. It is very easy for an author to get attached to his work. He puts in great effort and his books mean a great deal to him. Thus, it can really be hard to cut a scene you love or throw out tens of thousands of words. I know, I've done this. As I've said before, I grew up around the theater, and for 20 years I ran a drama troupe that put on original musical comedies. One thing I learned in the theater is not to get attached to my work and not to think anything is so good that it can't be pitched. I've seen this happen too many times with artists, whether authors, musicians, or actual artists. They create something and are so attached to it because of the effort they put in that they are unwilling to change anything. Thus, their work is stuck in mediocrity because they won't learn and progress because they can't let go. I have a daughter in technical theater, and she knows this well. Directors are horrible about having the tech put many hours into a set piece and then not use it. I've put 40 hours into writing music for a song and then cut the song from the show before rehearsal started. I've thrown out many hours of work. With my first novel, Heroes of Hearth, I had a scene I really wanted in it, so I put it in. But it didn't really fit, so I deleted it. I don't remember now what it was, but I loved the scene. I was attached to it. I cried when I deleted it, but where it was a good scene, it didn't fit right in the story. It wasn't what the characters would have done and felt forced, so it got cut. I've gotten over that, and I can easily cut thousands of words. When I first wrote The Shards, I was over 30,000 words into it and was just not feeling right about it. Something seemed off, so I figured out what it was, scrapped everything, and started again from scratch. As authors, we have to be willing to throw out writing, even though we put so much effort into it and so much of ourselves into it. Just because our stories are figuratively our babies doesn't mean that they are good. So sometimes our baby, our creation, has to be thrown out. Don't ever get so attached to work that you can't throw something out if it needs to be thrown out. At times, work doesn't need to be thrown out, only rewritten, but be willing to throw it out if needed. This same concept goes with story and plot ideas. I talked about playing the moment in the videos about the rules of improvisation and how they apply to writing and life. There are times as authors that we have to throw out things we wanted to see happen in the story. Great scenes, ideas of where the story was going to go, or what we thought the characters were going to do, to be true to our characters and world, to be believable, and to play the moment. Don't be afraid to change things. Don't be afraid to throw out a good idea or a good scene for a better story. As authors, we can't be cocky that just because we wrote something, it's good. Sure, I always try to make my writing good. I try to make it spectacular. But I run my book through my family, who are not yes-men, and will definitely honestly critique. And if they ever tell me that something just isn't doing it for them, or they find a problem, or they don't laugh at all when it's being read, I go back and fix the problems. I will throw out anything I must, no matter how many hours I put into it or how attached I was to something to get a better story. I don't have to throw out as much anymore because I've written so many books. But even now, after 55 novels and over 24 quick reads, I still sometimes have to throw out work and redo it. Sometimes my family has a better idea than what I did. Don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to improve. Don't get so attached that you keep something in a story that weakens the story. Now, how does this principle apply to life? There are times in life that we get very attached to something that needs to be cut out of our life. An obvious vice is addiction. But generally, I think this comes more in the form of misplaced priorities. In our world of digital entertainment and surfing the net, it's very easy to get attached to things that should not be made priorities. It is sad to see parents on their phones while ignoring children. Sad to see technology take the place of fresh air and exercise. It's sad to see people who spend their lives surfing the net instead of learning skills. What are your priorities? Do you have things in your life that you need to throw out? Hint, it's not your real baby if you have one. I'm a firm believer of family first. What in your life is getting in the way of what is most important in the long run? I know I've been very guilty of this. When times get stressful, I tend to write obsessively, and I neglect things in my life that I shouldn't. I've had to reevaluate how I was spending my time and put less time into writing and more time into family. Fortunately, writing now is a family activity, so I get to keep up my hobby of writing without neglecting my children, who are now teens and adults. For my family, my writing pulls my family together. We all talk story ideas. We develop worlds, characters, and magic systems. My children come up with most of my story ideas. Some of my children have written their own books. Often we all come up with cities and characters for the books. Everyone in the family came up with shards and characters for them in the shards. We all came up with cities and war mage teams for the Feyborn. We all developed cities and characters for the Crown series. This happens often. We all contribute. In Rejected, everyone came up with his rejected character and we discussed what happened in each chapter. And at times, I turned the writing over to one of my children so I'd get the character right. We actually role-played Ubos. Everyone came up with sci-fi characters and we sat down and I'd play the villains and they'd come up with what they would do and argue in character with each other while I frantically took notes and wrote down dialogue. Even if I write a novel that doesn't involve them in developing every chapter, when I write, or they write, my husband gets everyone together at night and reads what has been written that day. It's great family bonding time. Think of what is important to you. Where should your priorities be? Is what you are spending your time on actually important? Are there things in your life that you need to throw out, even though you have a passion for them? Learning to throw out things that aren't adding to our lives or our stories is a good habit to develop. It can be hard to cut a scene or throw out all the words or get rid of that bad habit, but it will make for better writing and a better life. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, and keep watching Advice for Writing and Life. Don't forget to leave a comment. If you were to come up with a character to role play for a sci-fi novel, what character would you design? Put it in the comments. I'd love to know.